Hey there, and welcome back to the Small Logic channel. I am Ramona, and we're doing more weird, paranormal, supernatural encounters, stories off of Reddit. And that's it. Ready? Here we go. Story 1. Okay, so my husband and I lived in Phoenix, Arizona, and had to travel to Lake Havasu. Half of the trip is on the interstate. The other half is situated on a two-lane highway bordered by low hills, extensive dry grass, and tumbleweeds. It was in the middle of nowhere. No buildings or lights. Nothing but land. We left Havasu later than expected and were on the highway in the pitch dark. No one else was on the road. You could see for miles and miles on this road in the daytime, and at night any headlights would be visible. It was deserted except for us. In the distance, we could see lights that resembled police lights. We both laughed that we weren't the only people out here after all. As we got closer to the lights, we realized that they were brighter than any other police lights should have been, and there was a lot of them. We were so confused because it wasn't supposed to be anything out here like that. We'd driven this road the day before and didn't remember seeing anything. We got closer and realized that it was a full-blown carnival off to the side of the road, lights blazing and rides going. A Ferris wheel, the zipper, allowed us to see the top of a carousel spinning. The carnival was situated right behind a small hill which partially obstructed our view of the ground where the carnival was, but the tops of the rides were clearly visible. We pulled over to our side of the road and got out. We stood there and stared. It was absolutely silent. No vehicles were visible. The highway had fenced all along it, and the carnival was behind the fencing. We couldn't see any roads that led back to the area. In fact, there weren't any side roads for miles. There was no noise of people or music, just rides and lights. It felt so wrong. After a few minutes, we got back in the car and drove away. We couldn't even talk. We just went in stunned silence for 20 minutes until hubby looked at me and said, "We left our phones in our car. Why didn't we take a picture or video?" We felt stupid, but we were so shocked by the whole thing. To this day, even looking at Google Earth and talking to people familiar with the area, no one can figure out why an empty carnival would be sitting in the middle of nowhere on such a night. Story 2. One time I was sitting on the couch watching TV. The TV was in front of a big window, and we lived at the end of the cul-de-sac, so the window was also looking out down the road. A truck came driving down the road, towards the house, and its headlights were incredibly bright, like so bright the room lit up. I was blinded. In my peripheral vision, I saw something black fall from the ceiling. I may have chalked it up to my lack of vision, but I heard something hit the floor. There was nothing there when I looked, but I often found foot or handprints on the ceiling of our big spare room after that. It's kind of like one of those believe it or don't stories for me. I've spent a lot of time trying to convince people of what I saw and heard, but it's pretty bizarre. Story 3. When my first child was born, I had to leave the hospital and grab something at home. On my way back to the newborn son's room, I was walking down a hallway. This was at 2 or 3 a.m. I see another guy walking towards me, nothing out of the ordinary. Then he turns to his right and disappears into a wall. Apparently there used to be a hallway that way, which had since been remodeled into a wall. Story 4. This was a weird, quirky one. I still have no explanation for it. It's around 3 a.m., and I'm trying to get to sleep. I'm laying down with my eyes closed, and all of a sudden I hear what can only be described as a steel ball bearing rolling down my nightstand, incessantly and nonstop. It's funny because I remember having zero fear at the time, while also cognitively acknowledging that the sound I was hearing couldn't be happening or was possible. I was just so irritated that it was keeping me from getting rest. So I hopped out of the bed in a huff, now wide awake and frustrated, flinging my nightstand open to try and find I don't know what. I don't even know what I expected to see. All I could picture in my head was a medium-sized steel ball bearing rolling and knocking around inside my drawer. I was really determined to put a stop to these effing shenanigans. I opened it and found nothing. All the while the noise continues to occur. My nightstand is against a wall, but the only thing on the other side of the wall is quiet a dark, quiet entrance hallway. After minutes of searching with fear and annoyance, I finally threw my hands up and got back into bed. The noise continues. I get up a few more times, tearing through my nightstand to try and catch whatever it is, but I never do. It evidently stopped on its own, and I have finally got to sleep. I had never heard a noise like that in my house before, and I have not heard it since. I have never heard a noise like that. Oh, sorry. It was truly unique and singular experience. The noise was just so specific to what I was describing. A medium to large steel ball rolling and knocking around, specifically inside my nightstand. Not the wall, inside my nightstand. The fact that it only happened this once makes me feel as if it wasn't a pipe problem, which you would think that would be more consistent. It gives me chills to think about it now. When I look back, I find it funny and odd how I just flung myself at whatever this was so fearlessly and felt nothing but a sense of annoyance and frustration towards God effing knows what. The tone didn't really feel scary or malicious at the time at all, obviously, even though thinking about it today creeps me out. I'm very much a skeptic, but I have no idea what the F happened that night. It felt like I was being teased or messed with by something. A fairy? That's my best non-skeptical guess. Story 5. When I was like 4 or so, my best friend and I went to a daycare center, aka just two old ladies named Dottie and Lucille who ran shit out of their house. We used to play on the swing set outside when our moms came to pick us up and got stuck in conversation with them. I remember, incredibly vivid still, at 34, a man who would always go and stand next to me. He always wore a black coat, like a trench coat, and a fedora-type hat. I was never able to remember his face. It just appears as blank in my memory. He would always stand next to me in the swing, and I remember feeling extremely uncomfortable. He would never speak, but it was as if I knew him and that he wanted something. I'm not sure, but this went on for a while. Years later, as a teen, I was struggling with insomnia because I was overprescribed something when I was for twice a day when I was 15. So I went a little nuts for a minute, but I kept seeing this man. He appeared in my late night, lack of sleep induced apparitions constantly. I ended up reaching out to my childhood friend, and she had no clue what I was talking about, and she never remembered a man coming near us. I thought I was actually crazy. Again, years later, I'm drunk and talking to my friend, and she's telling me about her sleep paralysis and the shit she sees. She literally describes that dude to every detail. I've met others as well. Additionally, it appears to be a whole phenomenon, similar to the trench coat and fedora-wearing man. There is also incredibly effed up nightmares that left me unable to speak for a few days. This shit was intense. I don't know what it was, but I know for me it's been terrifying. It's been a terrifying ride, and I actively chose to keep locked away in my mental box of do not touch things. It still freaks me out. Story 6. I lost about 5 hours. Time travel? Time slip? Still unexplained to me. And this incident occurred over 5 years ago, just before the COVID-19 lockdown. I'd say it was early March. I had a work day off. I worked third shift. I was living with my grandparents, taking care of my grandfather, who was actually in a wheelchair. We had a fully furnished basement where I lived. None of this is significant. It's just a bit of backstory. I had set my phone down on the countertop and went over to my record player, where I picked out an album to listen to. It was Pink Floyd, Metal. It was about 10:45 p.m. I sat down on the couch as the music started up. I sat there for probably what felt like 10 minutes and listened to the music. The record was still playing on the same side it was on. I got up to check my phone, and when I looked at the time, it read 3:10 a.m. I have no idea how this happened or what happened. Still baffled and uneasy about the scenario. As if it was a CD or streaming, I would have maybe chalked it up to, I just passed out while I fell asleep. But the record was still playing. Story 7. My boyfriend and I got lost in Colorado trying to find a campground where our friend was staying. It was a ways. It was in the way backwoods. We'd been lost for hours and thought we'd finally found the trail. It wasn't long after sunset, but no one was moving. We could see random trucks and campers parked in spots all along the trail. No campfires, no dogs, no people. We came to a fork in the road. One path goes straight up a hill. The other path goes off to the left. We decided to get out and walk to try to figure out where to go. My boyfriend goes left and I start up the hill. Almost immediately I felt a presence. I look up at the mountain and see a person standing at the top, just outside the limits of the headlights. There's enough ambient light coming from somewhere that I can see the dark shadow of them, but I can't make out any detail. I also noticed they were tall and skinny, like the friend we were coming to meet. I thought they were too tall, like 9 feet tall, but figured that must have been an optical illusion. I called out at our friend's name, and there was no answer. I thought maybe he couldn't hear me, or me with his truck behind him, so I started walking. The shadow started walking down the hill. I kept walking, calling out. By this time, my boyfriend had returned to the truck. I kept walking, and the shadow kept advancing. That's when I really began to notice the difference. It wasn't getting shorter. I wasn't making out any more details. The light was shining off of it, and it was still pitch black, like smoke had filled the skin of an invisible man. My boyfriend asked if that was our friend, and I said I wasn't sure. Then I started laughing because, duh, the headlights were behind me. It was an optical illusion. It was my shadow, and the darkness played tricks on my mind somehow. But as I stood there, stock still, my boyfriend standing far behind the lights, I noticed the 9-foot shadow was still there, about 15 feet from me. Shadows still reflect the light and cast their own shadow behind it. Then, as I was standing completely still, it started walking towards me again. I don't remember screaming or anything. I just turned and got in the truck and told my boyfriend to floor it to the left. He was already on it. We stumbled around the dark for a while before calling and getting the camper for one of the worst nights we'd ever had, jumping at any sound. The next day, we discovered that a friend had returned up the path to the hill. We asked him if he was playing a joke the night before. He looked at us totally confused and said they'd gone to bed before dark and had no idea what we were talking about. I don't know what we saw, but I know it was other. To this day, I still can't tell the story without my boyfriend having to go out of the earshot. Story 8. A few weeks ago, when I was cooking lunch in the kitchen, I felt my hair move, and after that I heard whispering next to my ear. The first part, I couldn't really understand what was said, but at the end I heard, "Get out." At first I thought it was my husband playing a joke on me since he loves to scare me and has fun with me. But then I turned around and there was no one there. My dogs looked scared. I called my husband, as he was upstairs in a room. He saw the look on my face, which showed I was terrified. He too had heard strange sounds and seen things happening in our house. Story 9. My hometown is in a pretty old city. It was established back when Texas was still a part of Mexico. It features a Civil War fort that once housed Robert E. Lee. There are still buildings in the early days of its life scattered throughout the town. Most of them are still in use, while some are left to decay, probably forgotten by whoever had inherited the ownership. My grandmother lived down the street from a building that served as the city's first schoolhouse and hospital, aside from the infirmary at the door of the fort. The door had been kicked in at some point, and the city never bothered to condemn it officially. My friends and I would like to do some urban exploring and check out the old abandoned buildings around the city. For some reason, we kept avoiding this one. This building is 2 stories with an unfinished root cellar. As soon as you step in, you have doorways to your left and right. Straight ahead is a hallway leading to what is either a kitchen or a supply room, and a set of chairs against the wall to the right leading up to the 2nd floor. If you head down towards the kitchen, there's another doorway to the left, and to the right there's a restroom. The upstairs is a similar layout, but instead of a kitchen, there is a couple of wrought iron bed frames with springs that were once a part of a mattress. The floor on the second floor was in poor condition, with a significant portion broken or rotted through. One night, my friends and I, after a few beers, decided to finally explore this place. We get to it, but everyone is too chicken to go in. Since I already knew the layout, I finally said I'll go if someone else comes with me. I don't remember how it happened, but we all wound up inside exploring the bottom floor. We were going room to room, using our phone screens as flashlights and just checking things out. Suddenly there was a clatter, and almost everyone bolted out except for me and 2 of my friends. We stood there arguing over cutting the exploration short and going back to drinking or checking out the 2nd floor. At some point someone said, "I bet y'all won't go up the top by yourselves. $20 for the first one to come out of the balcony." So we bolted up the stairs, trying to be the first. I had completely forgotten about the rotted through floors. $20 was the only thing on my mind. We reached the balcony, which was located right above the front door, and started arguing who had made it there first. After a few seconds, we turn around and head downstairs, and my buddy yells, "What the F is that?" My eyes are just barely starting to adjust to the darkness when I see something down at the end of the hallway, crouching and beginning to stand up. Its eyes caught the light just right and shimmered a reddish orange in the darkness. We were frozen, just watching this figure tower over a door that was leaning up against the wall. It was easily 7 feet tall. My buddy was the first to snap out of it. He hopped the banister, and his foot crashed through the step he landed on. He hightailed it out of there before my other buddy and I knew what had happened. At this point, the figure was almost standing completely upright. It did some motion that looked like it was trying to crack its back by leaning back, and then hunched forward with its arms wide at its side. My other buddy and I snapped out of it, and we also jumped the banister. He landed awkwardly and rolled his ankle, and I almost landed on top of him because of that. We didn't bother to look back, but we were just going down the stairs. I swear I felt it swing its arms to try to grab me. We made it to the bottom of the stairs, ran past our other friends, and straight to my grandma's. The rest tried to ask what had happened, but they knew better than to stick around and try to find out. We all get to my grandma's, and after catching our breath, we explained everything that happened. We kept going back and forth with what it could have been, from someone using the place as shelter to us just making it up, until we finally agreed to go back during the day. We went back the following day, equipped with flashlights and self-defense items, but when we arrived, everything was boarded up. All the windows, the front and back doors, even the windows on the second floor. We walked around to the back and saw they missed the cellar access. We debated even going in, since that would be our only exit in case whatever attacked us the night before was still there. We decided against it and walked back around the front, and that's when a cop pulled up. We thought we were effed for trespassing, but the cop asked us what we were doing, said we better not be tagging up the place since it's part of our city's history. We told him we were checking it out since we'd never heard stories about it, and he goes, "Oh, like the story of the patient that haunts this place?" We told him we had never heard about it. Long story short, there was a patient who was special. He used the R word. Many people mistreated him due to his size and uniqueness. One day, something happened and he was accused because only someone his size could have done it, so he was badly beaten. When he was brought to the hospital, instead of helping him, the staff just let him suffer until he died. After a bigger hospital was built, that building became a schoolhouse and an elementary school on the first floor and a middle school on the top. The kids would stay behind to help clean up and dust off the chalkboards. They would tell the stories of seeing a giant walking down the hallway. There was no record of this happening. The story had been passed down through generations by people who heard it from someone older than them. Whatever it was that we saw, that shit chilled me to my bones. I've seen a coffee mug slide across the table, a rocking chair start rocking on its own and then suddenly stop, a key cover to a piano slam itself shut, and I've even had the blankets ripped off of me in the middle of the night when I lived alone. None of that affected me the way that other experience has. Story 10. First thing I can think of happened to me this week, actually. It wasn't a direct encounter and probably had a logical explanation, but it gave me the creeps. So I live on a street with a hiking trailhead at the end of the road. It goes into some decently thick woods and tries to take you to a small lake called Lost Lake, named so because once you get there, you don't know if you didn't get lost all the switchbacks going there. You feel once you feel lost once you are there with how far it feels. It's kind of a weird word, but that's okay. I had decided to go hiking to get some nature therapy after a stressful week, and had made it all the way up to the lake. My usual spot to stop was a small bench, where I like to journal and reflect. Then I usually hike back out. On this day, as I'm writing, I heard some distant thunder and noticed the sky had quickly darkened, so I wrapped up early and got walking back. I had a small pack with me and would take cover if needed, but I hoped to reach my car before the downpour. About 3/4 of a mile from the trailhead, the wind picked up suddenly. It was like someone had basically switched the sun off because it got dark. Like not normal for noon kind of dark, even with the rain. So I walked faster. Half a mile away from the end, I hear a low, loud howl that probably lasted 5 seconds. Something to note is that there were no houses with dogs nearby. I know because all the closest houses had no fences, and they were still a while away. The howl came from the direction ahead of me, down the path. I'm not a skittish person, but it stopped me in my tracks. The wind, conveniently, also decided to die totally. Suddenly, I'm stopped in the dark, quiet woods. I decided now was a good time to double time it to the trailhead, even if the sound was ahead. Even if there was something to it, there was enough switchbacks to make it come from a different direction eventually. I also had a walking staff handy, in case there was just some kind of loose dog, which wasn't the first thought that came to my mind. As I went to the trailhead and heard the howl one more time, more distant and behind me now, clearly inside the woods, I hustled to my car, threw my stuff in, and jumped into the seat. The literal second I closed the door, it was like God Himself just dumped a massive bucket of water down on me. It went from a light breeze to torrential downpour in seconds. I drove home, ran inside, and I haven't been back to the woods since. Not since, not sure what all this was about, but it was weird enough for me for 1 week, that's for sure. As a folklore enthusiast, I am familiar with the numerous stories about the uh, Rogu, Rugaru. I can't even say it. But I firmly believe that all folklore has some basis in truth to some degree. Was that what I heard? I have no idea. But I don't want to find out. So there you go. Good. Again, lots of good, interesting stories. Hopefully they're all true. Or maybe not, hopefully. I don't know. Some of those might be kind of scary for people, but hope you have enjoyed this video. If you did, go check out another one. And we'll talk to you later. Bye.